don't know if you want to wait a few minutes to see if, oh, there's someone else. If a few more are going to join, or if you want to jump right in. I think you have a list of topics we're going
Mhm.
over.
Yep. So we can go ahead and get started with the topics.
Okay.
So for this week, before we open it up for questions, we had a couple of scenarios that we wanted to discuss with you all.
Mhm.
So the first one is what is a normal market? What is a normal real estate market? We have been talking about the fact that there are some agents that have only known this market that we've been in, and like you, Sarah,
And Tara.
and Tara, yeah, and that there are some agents that have no idea what a different kind of or a more normal real estate market is.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have a discussion about how this market differs, for you all who have only been agents in this past couple of years.
Mhm.
You have no idea how strange and how odd and how uncharacteristic this market really is in comparison to past real estate markets. So that's the first topic that we're going to talk about. And so uh, I don't know how long have Pete and what's your name again? Beth.
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 Pete and Beth, how long have you all been in real estate?
85 years.
Oh, so you've seen all kinds of markets then, haven't you?
No, I've been in it longer than Pete, and I started about 7.5, 8 years ago, something like that.
Okay,
And I'm a little over 4.5.
about
Okay.
4.5. Okay,
Okay.
so still fairly new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Second careers for both of us.
okay,
My
Sarah,
fifth,
what was that, Pete?
my fifth career.
Fifth career. All right. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up too. So I get it.
Well, Pete's first career was a comedian.
Oh,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
well,
You can
that
see why
might
that
be his,
didn't last.
that might be his sixth one also, right? How about you, Sarah? How long have you been in real estate?
I got my license at the end of October last year, and then I knocked out my post licensing. And so I started right after that. I think it was like November, mid-November, maybe.
Okay, so brand new-ish, like we probably got almost a year coming in.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Tara, are you newly licensed? How long have you been so newly licensed?
I got licensed in I got my license June of this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
And then I signed on with Keller Williams July 22nd.
Okay.
But I was in insurance for 19 years.
Okay.
So it's absolutely same thing, but different products with a lot of they really do coincide. So it seems a lot, the transition's not as difficult as I thought it would be.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Mhm.
And then Cynthia, how long have you been in real estate? I know you were one of my students, so how long has it been now?
Yeah, let's see, I actually got my license in March 31st.
Okay.
I got my license March 31st, and I affiliated with Keller Williams in mid-May.
In mid-May. Okay. So yeah, so the longest that any of you all have been in the real estate market has only been about 7 years, except for Teresa. She's our veteran. How long have you been in real estate, Teresa?
Going on 18 years.
18 years. All right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we thought it would be a good discussion for you all today to talk about how this market is different than what we might coin a normal market, or just other historical market experiences. And so Teresa, did
I was going to say, Tiffany, you're not far behind me.
No.
Yeah.
So what about how old? No, I'm kidding. I've been in real estate for 16 years. So a couple of years behind you.
Yeah.
but I have seen, quite a few different markets in those 16 years.
Mhm, mhm.
And so, what would you say is the biggest change? Have you ever seen it as a buyer's market? Because this has been a seller's market for
Yes.
probably the entire time that all these agents have been
Right.
practicing. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty
Mhm.
much. Yeah, so I started real estate I guess like if we want to say the market went south when the economy went bad, what did they call it? The recession and
Mhm.
all of that. I guess that was what, 07. So I was licensed in 04.
Mhm.
So it was actually a pretty good market, and at that it was a normal market. And of course, being new in real estate then, I didn't know any different or any better. But after 07, that 2010, 2011 time frame, it's became a buyer's market
Mhm.
where buyers could scoop up properties at really good prices because of the foreclosures, the short sales, and all of that.
Mhm.
Because when I first got into real estate, it was the market where lenders were lending over purchase price. I mean, 125% LTV. So the first mortgage, second mortgage, your primary, your secondary, you could have 2, 3 loans on a property when you purchase the property.
First purchase. Yeah.
It was stated income. You didn't have to verify anything. You could just say, yep, I make 150. Well, the lender didn't even verify it. Just so long as you show your bank statements and all of that, guess what? If you had a 680 or 720, you're in the house. So that's where a lot of the 07, 08
Bad debt.
market, came from.
Mhm.
So it was, so I've seen in Tiffany too, pretty much the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the real pretty today, if you're a seller's agent. Yeah. So it's a lot different now. And I will say this, back then, you were happy if your house sold in 3-4 months if you had a listing. That was beautiful. The shortest amount of time we would take a listing at the firm that I was with was 6 months. We were looking at a year. So today you can pretty much list something at 60 days and it's gone. Before that, I'm not saying that we do, but 6 months, no less than that for a listing back
Mhm.
then. And happy if it sold then. And here's the thing, they expired back then too.
Yeah.
Listings would expire.
Even if they were 6 and 12 months long.
Yes, they would
Yeah.
expire. Yes.
And so, so one of the things that we were discussing was that Teresa had recently gotten an email by a client who was saying that their home had been listed for 3 days and they didn't have any offers yet. What was wrong? Like, it is an unrealistic. Well, not unrealistic, but it's a different kind of market, and setting the expectations of these sellers. They are now expecting multiple offers on day 0, and they think something's wrong if they haven't gotten one on the 3rd day of their
Right.
listing.
Right.
It's because
Okay.
it's because the house was listed around the corner from us. And they kept the sign in the bushes the whole time.
It could be that the sign was hidden, but if it's on the MLS, it's still getting out there, right? But I'll tell you, the sellers, they're hearing rumors and they're believing, there's some sellers that have unrealistic expectations of what to expect in this market
Mhm.
because it's so different than what they've known.
Mhm.
And so they're hearing these rumors and they're expecting, astronomical offers and immediate offers.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to talk today about, what is a more normal market and something that you all may not have experienced yet. And then also, how to set realistic expectations in this unprecedented market that
Mhm,
we're in today for our clients.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So that's what we wanted to talk about. Thank you, Teresa, for sharing, some of those experiences from pre 2007 or 2008. I'm sure some of you all probably hadn't even heard of some of those types of loan products. You certainly won't find those today,
Mm-mm.
especially the no doc loans or the stated income, things like that are things of the past.
Mhm.
And so we would definitely call this market that we're in currently a seller's market. It is, the sellers are having their way, and some of these sellers are really pushing to try to see just what can they do and what can they get.
Mhm.
And so it has started to cause some of the buyers to begin to retract a little bit, is what we're seeing now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there are some buyers now that I'm hearing that are deciding maybe we'll just wait and let things even out a bit. Buyers are thinking of renting for some time and then trying again when these sellers get a little more realistic. So I'm running into all kinds of scenarios and arguments here, and wanted to know what you guys are running into and how to have a discussion here about how to set some realistic expectations for all of our clients, both buyers and sellers. So what are you all running into when in your discussions with buyers or sellers right now? Expectation wise.
And especially buyers, because it's so challenging for them. Anybody who's working with buyers, if the offer isn't super strong the first time or the first home they make a offer on, then you're probably going to be writing multiple offers on multiple properties in order to get your buyer's offer accepted. So I'd really love to hear, how are you navigating these buyers in this market?
I think that buyers have the outdated notion that that they're going to there's going to be a countering going back and forth.
Good
You know,
point.
I'm gonna let's lowball it and see if we can see what happens. And you don't do that now. You pretty much put your best offer out the first time.
That's a good point, Beth.
I ran
Unless
into
the
a
house-
buyer that was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, unless the house has been on the market for an extraordinarily long time, and now that would be 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
I had a buyer just wanting to give up. And just because offer after offer after offer is getting denied,
Mhm.
and they're just outbidded, and it's stressful. And what I'm learning, and they weren't my buyer's agent, they were unrepresented at the time, and I was working with them, but that's why it's important to have an agent. And so it's really frustrating for them. And what I'm learning is just to set that expectation up from the get-go of it's going to be, right now it is a challenging market for buyers, and just to have realistic expectations is the biggest thing that I'm working on with my current buyers.
Right.
I'll give you the same answer I'll give to every real estate question, and that is, it all depends. If you look at the absorption, it could all depend on price point. A higher priced house, the absorption rate is a lot slower,
Mhm.
and you can fiddle with that a little bit. And right now, above, let's say above 500,
Mhm.
you got a little bit of juice on both sides.
Mhm.
Below 500, you don't have much.
Mhm.
But if you look at the absorption rate and you show your client the absorption rate in that price point bracket they're looking at, they'll start to understand how many houses are in there, how fast they move,
Mhm.
how few of them are on the market, blah, blah, blah. And you can set them up for, okay, you got to give your best offer, because when Beth started, there were 1,200 houses on the market in Alamance County, and this morning they're 82.
82.
Yeah, there used to be around 1,600 when I first started, about 1,600 on the market.
Mhm.
And then it was just amazing to see it go. And I couldn't believe it when it got into the 3 number digits, like 900.
Right.
And now, now today we check it just about every day. Today there were 82.
82. 82.
Just incredible.
Exactly. Exactly. You made me think of something, but I lost it. So I'll think of it
In fact, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, it was down to like 62, 56, 62. So we are starting to see it go up a little bit.
And you know what, Beth, good point. And that factors into that too, seasonality as well. The whole real estate market season and buying and selling before the school year. We're coming into the holidays. So that could or does play into this market as well. So that's a very good point. Very good point.
Yep. And thank you, Pete, for your comments about one of the things that you can show a buyer and a seller as far as to really help set realistic expectations in this market. So, the numbers are really important. I always like to show the proof of the numbers for buyers and sellers to really help them to see what's happening in the market right now. Sellers, they want as much as they can get, and show them what the numbers are showing that they really can get even in this market to help them not go way over. And then for the buyers, setting those realistic expectations, like Beth was saying, you have to bring your best offer up front. I just had a listing last week and we had 24 showings, and we only went for a day. We went day 0, day 1. We had 24 showings. We had multiple offers, well over ask. And there was an agent that texted me that night that the sellers were going to make their decision. And they were saying, oh, the buyers are wondering, can they sleep on it? And I was just like, I really suggest that if your buyers are interested, they make at least a verbal or text offer immediately. Like the sellers, I think some of these agents really don't have a realistic, expectation of how quickly they do need to make a decision and move. And that agent got a little upset with me when he asked later if they could still make an offer. And I mentioned that the sellers had already made their decision. And I recommend that you prepare your buyers to bring an offer very quickly. He was like, well, I didn't ask for all of that. And it's just like, well, I'm trying to help you / your clients in this market. This is what would have helped you to potentially even get a chance at this property. So we have not just unrealistic buyers and sellers, but some unrealistic agents that haven't yet caught on to the seriousness of this market that we're in, So setting expectations, communicating, back to what Pete was saying, show the numbers. I love that you were showing the absorption rates. I think that's a great number to show. And the comparisons and to help really drive home how few properties out there, what the inventory is, to really help buyers be prepared to make a decision quickly and to bring their best. So, showing as many numbers as possible. Again, the proof is in the numbers is how I operate. And when it comes to the sellers, making sure that they have, even in this market, still realistic expectations about the properties are likely not going to appraise for the amounts that they want. And so they need to expect to have or ask for offers that have addendums where the buyer's willing to pay the difference, because the appraisers are not going like they used to back in 2007 and 8 and just going with the contract sales price, or they have really cracked down because of that recession. And these homes are not appraising, you guys. They are not appraising for the contract sales price. And these buyers are paying chunks of the difference. And so, again, helping the sellers to realize their homes are really not worth what they are asking or even getting for them from an appraisal standpoint. And just being realistic about that expectation as well, because this market won't be able to sustain this long term. There will be a correction, and some people are saying they're seeing signs of it already. So this first part of the conversation here was really just how do you set those expectations? And again, show them the money, show them the numbers, show them the stats, convince your clients up front about the kind of market that we're in. That's going to save you all a lot of time and energy and effort, especially buyer agents. If your buyers are not on board with understanding that they're going to have to move quickly and bring their best, then rethink your decision to spend your time there, because you're going to get burned out trying to convince them of the facts of this market. Okay, so do a lot more of that convincing up front. Teresa.
Yeah, good point. And in addition to that, with these buyers is educating them on the ins and out of what they're signing. As agents, and what I'm seeing is they're not educating their buyers on here's what could potentially happen, and go through the scenarios. This $10,000 or $30,000 that you're putting down as due diligence or given to the seller as due diligence could be gone if the time you get it back is when this. And also saying due diligence is due the effective date of the contract. So if yours is chosen, be ready, and having a game plan even before the offer is submitted to the listing agent or to the sellers, having your buyers understand this is how this works. So we have a listing in Durham and multiple offers. And let me just tell you, we talk about what sells a house: condition, price, location. Well, the condition of this house, let me say, there's leaks in the leaks, the floors are wet, you step on the floor, water's coming up, and really, but the location is great. The location is fabulous. It's South Durham, 5 minutes, if that, away from, not even 5 minutes away from South Point. Great location, conditions not there. It's priced accordingly. Like Tiffany, it was, we had like 30 showings in a day. If you can get that many in, I think we lowered the time frame. Yeah, showing time. It could be in there, or they could be in. But anyway, multiple offers, lots and lots of showings. And here's what happened with that. The seller chose an offer, and the buyer went to another country after we accepted their offer. Where's the due diligence? Did you not, agent, tell your buyer that if your offer is accepted, due diligence is due immediately? So we've waited today. Anyway, this is my husband's listening, but anyway, he was patient enough.
Men, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
Kidding,
he was patient
Pete.
enough to wait. I'm like, dude, if you
Wait a minute, don't talk about men like that.
if you don't send that request for cash and immediately available funds, so the seller can terminate if they so choose. We still haven't gotten. It's been a week today that it's been under contract. Still no due diligence, and all the agent can say, I don't know. They're in another country. They left. They had a family emergency. They went to another country. What?
Teresa, are you showing that as active, or are you showing it as pending? AB?
Pending. Is pending. Why am I showing it as pending? Do we have to show it as pending?
Well, I get a little afraid of marking something pending until I have the DD check.
Okay. Okay.
I don't.
Well,
maybe
I think it's showing as pending, and I think it was more I don't know why he changed it to pending, but it's pending, and it still says pending, and it won't be for very long because I said,
Well,
okay.
do you, is it okay not to mark it as pending if you haven't gotten the DD check, if it was agreed to be on executed, date of execution?
All right, that is a very good question. I want to hear from you all. Did you understand Beth's question? And you don't have to be right. Just tell us what you think.
My guess is that you follow the MLS rules with regard to when it went under contract.
Okay. All right.
But is it really executed if you were promised the DD at time of execution and it's been 2 days and you still don't have it?
Okay.
Oh, you have to make like
I
a
would
written
wait for the
request,
DD.
Uh-oh.
something.
Yeah, I would wait for the due diligence. That would be me, but
Yeah.
Okay. So I was trying to see who said that. There was Tara said that. Okay, you would wait for the DD. Okay.
We have a buyer who is buying a house from a gentleman who is serving in Afghanistan right now.
Mhm. Okay.
And we had trouble getting him the DD
Mm-hmm.
and had to come up with some way to get him the DD in order to make it pending.
Mhm.
But the listing agent knew we had it and knew we were trying to get it to the seller.
Mhm.
We just didn't know how to do it. And she didn't know how to do it. So that was kind of a strange situation.
So if you're a listing agent, figure out how you get paid.
Right. Figure out how you can get paid. All right. So what is best practice in this situation? You go into contract, multiple offers, you choose one, you don't get your due diligence. The seller never gets it. What's best practice for that?
Written
Oh,
notice, one banking day, terminate, go with the next offer.
that's what I was gonna say, the 1-day terminate letter.
Yeah.
exactly. Follow the rules, request it, give them the banking day, and if they don't, guess what? Buyer's in breach. Matter of fact, I think we just had a realtor rundown that spoke about that either this week or last week or sometime that talked about that specifically.
Mhm.
I don't, can you explain? I don't have clarity on what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Tiffany.
So if you look at the new offer to purchase, that bottom paragraph on the first page, they actually changed the wording to make it more clear on that. And
Mhm.
so if the due diligence has not been received, you still have a contract.
Yep.
So you all should change your status from active to at least contingent, if not pending.
Mhm.
Okay, because you do have a legally binding contract. It is not contingent upon the receipt of the due diligence to have a contract.
Right.
So make sure you guys are clear on that. If you leave it in contingent status, showings can continue until it changes to pending. If you switch it to pending status, then there cannot be any more showings. So that's just what happens as far as the other agents are concerned.
Mhm.
But what happens per the contract is if the monies are not received, the seller has to provide written notice
Mhm.
that they have not been received
Mhm.
and give one banking day for good funds to come.
Mhm.
If the buyer does not provide those good funds within that one banking day, now the buyer is in breach of the contract and the
Mhm.
seller can terminate,
Mhm.
and the seller can pursue everything per the contract, the due diligence, the earnest money, whatever they wish, they could legally pursue it because it's a buyer breach.
Yeah.
But not until the seller has provided the written notice that they have not received the funds and the demand, the one giving them one banking day to provide them.
Okay.
That's it. That's
Can I
it.
ask a question about that?
No question. No, I'm kidding.
So if the seller were to go after the buyer, even though they're in the due diligence period, still, could they still ask, like, try to take both the due diligence and earnest monies because of the breach? Because
Correct.
they didn't supply it?
Because of
Okay.
the breach.
Yep.
Mhm.
So the
Well,
buyer
if-
is in breach if they haven't provided any of the funds that were agreed per the contract
Exactly.
after the written notice and the one banking day.
Yes.
Mhm.
Can you change that to more than one banking day if they tell you, oh, well, they've put it in the mail, and, sometimes the mail can be 4 days or whatever.
Well, they're not following the rules of that form. It says one banking day to provide immediate available funds or cash to that seller. And if they put it in the mail, shame on them. Guess what? We're not going to get it within one banking day.
So they should overnight it for sure.
Definitely. And at least,
So that they won't be in breach.
right.
Right.
And
Up to the seller after that. Mhm.
exactly. And if they want to do that, that really should be a conversation between the agent to agent, letting the other side know and giving good faith. Although there's the letter of the law, I get it, the spirit of the law, let that other side know, let that listing agent and seller know, I am showing good faith. I can't get it to you within this one vacant day, but I did overnight it. Here's the receipt or whatever, so that, if you really want it and there's a legitimate reason why it wasn't provided or hasn't been provided, then out of courtesy, let the listing agent and seller know.
Well, it doesn't seem like there'd be much to go after at that point, because there'd be no DD put down, there'd be no EM put down. I mean, what's the seller going to be going after?
Well, they can, you can legally sue or file a suit against the buyer because there is a legitimate valid contract. So they could, should they, or does it make sense? It could be more trouble and time and money than it's worth, right? Especially if it's a nominal due diligence fee.
I'm sorry, what was the question again on that?
Beth was
Beth
asking
asked,
what could they go after?
what's the seller going after? If the buyer breaches and the seller wants to go after the buyer for whatever there is what's the word I'm looking for? A remedy to the buyer breach. They haven't given any due diligence. There's no earnest money. What could the seller possibly go after? And, they can sue for what is owed to them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
They can go to both. They can go after both.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. In the 2T contract, what I learned, or maybe I retained it wrong, but the earnest money and the due diligence is held so you don't take them to court. Is that incorrect?
Okay.
I
So
don't know what you mean by held.
the
But
due
go ahead, Tiffany.
the due diligence goes directly to the seller.
Right.
So it's not held by anybody. It should be delivered immediately to the seller.
Mhm.
The earnest money will be held by either a real estate company if they have a trust account, or an attorney if the real estate companies do not have the trust account.
Okay.
And then those funds are the ones that, if they're disputed, there has to be written agreement for release, or it can be turned over to the court.
Okay. That's what I
Meant
thank you
by
for
held.
specifying that.
Oh, sure.
You're good.
I see a note here in the chat. Mary Donald mentioned that she recently received a diligence payment through Venmo. So yes, you can and should do some sort of electronic and immediate method, especially if there has been a demand for payment because funds have not been received. So it is possible to quickly transfer good funds, and it's going to be up to that buyer to do so if the seller has not received them and has provided that notice. Otherwise, that buyer is going to be in breach.
And in addition to that, the seller has to agree to receive it that way, or have some method to be able to receive it.
All right. Now back to the other topic before we open up to all kinds of questions here.
The other point, can I say, the other point
sure.
is make
Please.
sure that the lender accepts that method. Because it has
Good
to be
point.
has to be traceable.
Traceable.
Has to be
Mhm.
traceable, right?
Has to
So
be
you have to
traceable.
have a paper trail,
You don't
Mhm.
have a check for Venmo.
right?
Right.
So you do have to have some method of electronic receipt
Mhm.
so that you can provide it.
Mhm.
Okay.
They can see it came out of that account.
So back to the topic about preparing buyers and sellers for this market.
Mhm.
One thing I would say, if you're working with a buyer or a potential buyer, and maybe they're a first-time home buyer, they finally got their credit score up and they're excited, but they have no cash. You guys, this is a difficult market for a buyer with no cash. You need to prepare them that they have to save up a minimum of a reasonable due diligence deposit to be able to compete in this market. And so buyers are having trouble with their offers if they are also the down payment assistance program. Those offers, while they are valid offers, if there's competitors that don't need that program, those buyers are just getting left behind in this market. So I'm not saying that you should discourage them, from trying, but you do have to really set your buyers' expectations, encourage them to save up as much as they can to invest into the transaction, and again, really have some candid conversations with these buyers, because it is a hard market for buyers, especially, again, low cash, maybe first time type buyers. I see a question here. What is a reasonable amount? I've heard a lot of large numbers lately. Okay, thanks for asking that, Tara. So it depends on the home, the price point of the home. A reasonable amount, like it used to be that you could go 250 or 500 in due diligence. These days, a minimum due diligence payment, I would say, needs to probably be at least over 1,000. And depending on the price point, if you're getting into, the lower price homes are 250 and up, so 2,000 plus expectation for just the due diligence. Some buyers are doing like all due diligence, no earnest money, so that they can put it all up front and try to be more competitive there. But you are going to have to be prepared for much larger than normal. And again, most of you guys don't even know what normal was. It used to be in class, I would teach that the due diligence and the earnest money on average was about 1% of the price of the home for both due diligence and earnest money. And you kind of just split it up a little bit for due diligence and put most of it as earnest money. That is completely out the door these days, And so, yeah, Pete saying he hasn't gotten due diligence less than 5,000 here lately. The one that I just got last week was 10,000. And we're talking about a townhouse, you guys. Like, we're not talking about $500,000 homes here. And so, and now somebody does say, Sarah mentioned that it does vary by market. This is true. The area, we're talking triangle and it's crazy super hot here, but maybe if you've got something that's not quite in the triangle, it may not be as drastic, so the further you go out, you're seeing numbers that make a little more sense. Someone even saw 5 digits. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, Tiffany. The area that you're working, and even though it's only 30 minutes away, Greensboro, 20 or so from Burlington area. So the thing is, it depends on the market and what is customary there, I guess
In
I'll
your
say.
specific market,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
And back to know the numbers.
The thing we've talked about lately is with the higher due diligence payment, you really have to be careful with what house you're looking at,
Mhm.
because if you think it's going to need repairs and you give $10,000 worth of due diligence and all of a sudden the owner says, not going to do it,
Right.
you've got no leverage whatsoever. And so you
Mhm.
just have to be careful with what house you're giving a bunch of money on, even if you say no repairs. We've had
Mhm.
houses that we've said no repairs and we end up getting repairs.
Mhm.
It just is it's crazy. So
Yeah. They're still going to ask Pete because they're putting in so much money, you know. But yeah, that's a great point that make sure your buyers understand the sellers do not have to agree to do anything, and they've got to be prepared to buy that house in the condition that it's in when they make the offer. And so, yeah, realistic expectations there. Chris has a question. He says, it was mentioned earlier, the appraisal addendum in the listing, should it be stated that the addendum should be submitted with any offers? Chris, if you think that that it's going to go over ask and over what it's likely to be appraised for, it doesn't hurt to ask for that with the offer. But I don't suggest that you necessarily include it with every listing. So you would want to have that discussion with your seller and talk about if you want to include that. That could be a deterrent for some buyers. So it would be a one-on-one conversation depending on the property.
Mhm.
Teresa, what do you think about that?
No, I'm in agreement with that, because it is going to depend on price point too.
Mhm.
And again, the market that it's in. So I agree that it should be a case by case basis. I wouldn't make it, me personally, wouldn't make it a practice, a best practice of, you know, with my listing presentation, I'll ask for proof of thus and so. I've even seen where property listed in the Triangle in Hope Valley, we listed at one price. I think they offered 10,000 over, and the appraisal actually came back higher than even the purchase price, and they wanted to bump up the price even more because the appraisal came in higher. Who wants to do that? But they did.
Who wanted to bump the price up?
The buyer wanted to bump the price up to appraised value. They wanted to change the contract.
Why would they do that?
I don't know, but the not listing agent, buyer's agent called and asked. Oh, I know why. They wanted to keep more money in their pocket. They wanted to keep more of their money, their actual cash, and wanted to bump up the price to meet appraised value. A seller said no, but yeah, the seller said, no, we'll leave it where it is.
More commission?
Right. Right. But you know, we ran the numbers. It wasn't, yeah, he's thinking that, and he was like, that means she get more money too. Well, yeah, the other agent. Well, no. So, yeah, I will look at it.
Here's the question I get repeatedly is, okay, you listed the house, you get 24 showings, you get 15 offers, it's $15,000 over the asking price. You're the listing agent. Did you underprice it?
In this market, you know, that's a good question, Pete. And in this market, I don't even know, is there anything such as underpricing? Because sometimes it looks like agents are taking a marker and throwing it at the wall and say whatever sticks.
And some sellers are asking agents to do that.
Yeah.
I am going to stick with, because here's the thing about pricing and your numbers should go with what the home would likely appraise for. And then if it's going above ask, the expectation there is it's going above what it will appraise for. If people are still willing to pay that, then they should make their offer accordingly. But to answer that question, I don't think that you are mispricing the home if you're pricing it for what it should appraise for, even in this market. Now, there's a lot of conversation about that. And I've had that conversation with my sellers, and I told them, you know, it would be foolish to price it well over what it might appraise for, and then not have anybody willing to potentially pay a significant chunk of difference, as opposed to pricing it for what it should appraise for, and then having them be willing to pay the difference of what they offer.
Yeah.
So,
and that goes back to our fiduciary duties to our clients, right? Old car, And that last one being reasonable skill, care, and diligence. That's what we owe them. So they're looking to us to be the expert and professional in our field. So I do believe, regardless of the market, whether it's a seller's market, buyer's market, or where it's an equal market, you know, just normal, then we still owe them reasonable skill, care, and diligence with providing that CMA or that seller's report, to where we are looking at, and this is what appraisers are going to use. What has recently sold that's most like the subject property? That's what they use, and that's what we should be looking at when we are pricing these homes. And as Tiffany said earlier, providing that proof, providing actual factual numbers to them.
Yeah.
That's what we should be doing. So if anything ever comes up in the future, then we can show, look, we provided them a CMA. We came up with these numbers. This is how we came up with it. We provided them most recently sold properties closest to it, most like the subject property. And that's how we determine that list price. Sarah.
So I've recently been seeing the online brokerages buying up homes over asking, and they're using cash offers without appraisals. So when I see this, I can't really use that as a legitimate comp for something else in that neighborhood. Is that correct? Because
Okay.
there's a cash deal.
You can. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
use
Without an appraisal, would it still be valid for the next home in the area?
because it's an
Okay.
actual market sale.
Right.
How do you know there's no appraisal?
Well, I'm dealing with it in my own transactions, so I just know that it's happening. So I thought it would obviously skew the market value of the homes in the area. So I didn't think that you could use that as a legitimate comp because there was no appraisal done.
You can,
Yeah,
because it's an actual market sale.
it's a
Okay.
market sale. It's not a distressed property. It's not a foreclosure, short sale, any of those. So if it has, like Tiffany said, if it's an actual market sale and it's been most recent, you know, one of the most recent solds, most like the subject property, that's a legitimate comp.
Great question. I see another one from Chris. He's getting
Okay.
back to the appraisal addendum. As a listing agent, it would be in my client's best interest at the time of listing not to ask for the addendum. Again, Chris, it really depends on the property.
Mhm.
If you think that the property is going to go significantly over ask, or what I would do instead of asking for it at the time of listing is if I'm going to do a if I'm going to give everybody, you know, a highest and bring your highest and best by a certain time, I might mention at that point to have offers with appraisal addendums. So if you're already getting offers over ask, you know, mention it there. But if you're sure from the get-go that it's going to go over ask, then you can include it. There's nothing saying that you can't include it in the listing. Put it in the agent only remarks. But again, I would go property by property. I can't make that statement just across the board.
Mhm. Okay,
All right.
good.
One other topic real quick, well, does anybody have any specific questions about a transaction you have going right now?
I do.
Okay, Beth.
I have, we are the buyers, we represent the buyers. It's a married couple. I was told to put both their names on all the documents, which I did. And now the lender is telling me to take the wife off. How do I do that? Is there an addendum to do that? Or do I have to go through the OTP and mark through her initials everywhere? How do I remove somebody from the deal?
Okay. Are you already under contract and the lender
Mhm.
wants it just redone?
Yeah.
Okay, so communicate it with the seller side that the lender's requiring it. And I would just redo it, make sure all the terms are the same, but just with the name of the the husband or the person that's getting the loan.
Mhm.
You mean the whole 15-page offer to purchase
Yeah.
redo?
Just retype it and resend it for signatures, with the seller's permission to redo that documentation because of the lender requirement. It happens a lot. And so in future, check with the lender first before writing offers, so you won't have to redo all. the
I
paperwork.
did. I mean, this was
Mhm.
a surprise that I got just an hour or two ago. That he
Mhm.
Okay.
wants the wife's name off.
The
So that-
lender, okay, and it happens, and when you do to redo the paperwork, again, just make sure that all the terms are identical and just remove the wife's name. So usually it's what, the
Okay.
first page and the, is it just the first page? I think that the wife's name could still be on the deed, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you would just have to redo that first page and have them to initial with the, the latest date. For
Okay,
that
so just the
change.
first page. I don't have to worry about doing the whole 15 pages.
Yeah, I was thinking about, well, so the initials,
I-
yeah,
Yeah, I
that
would.
was the,
Yeah, I would suggest, because I like clean, I just
Mhm.
like clean stuff because it's less confusing for everybody.
right,
I would just redo everything, removing the
spouse,
wife's, signatures and initials, and
and
just
even the
do,
initials too.
yeah, just
Okay.
clean copy. That way there's no confusion, because that lender could come back and say, no, we can't have her initials anywhere, because they have rules they have to
Well,
abide by.
actually, the lender said, please send an addendum saying she is not a buyer.
Well, here's the thing, we don't have one. that
Well, that's
says-
what I was wondering.
We don't have one, but the attorney, if he's asking for an addendum, that could be something the attorney could draw
No,
up.
this was the lender was asking for an addendum.
No, that's what I'm saying. This attorney could draw up an addendum to provide to the attorney for everybody to sign. But you would have to make that determination. But because we don't have one, and I would just convey that to the lender, there's no.
Okay,
form of that.
just because I'm real concise, I guess,
Mhm.
if I go in and take her off and it comes up saying, if you change this, all initials will be erased or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I start clean, does that mean that we are no longer under contract?
So I would start a new one instead of trying to change that one. Start a whole new offer. And like I said, make sure that it's identical. And when you send it to the sellers for their signatures, what you're doing is you're creating something called a novation.
Mhm.
So that way you're not negating the old contract, but you're sending this updated, corrected one
Mhm.
for signatures that we're going to replace the old one with.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so don't go into the old one trying to make those changes and erase all the signatures.
Right.
Start a new contract.
Fresh.
Make sure
Yeah.
all the terms are all the same and send the new one as adjusted per the lender requirement.
Mhm.
Okay, do I have to change wherever her initials are, like on the RPD and the MOG and all that stuff?
Just the offer.
Just the offer.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask a question about that? So with what you just said, and they're gonna redo a novation contract, what is the effective date still the original sign date? And what says that it is?
That is a great question, Sarah. So when you sign everything electronic, it's going to have the new dates on it. So you still want to have the original terms per the original contract, but the electronic signatures are going to have the new date, and that's going to be the signifier that we're replacing the old one with this new contract. So you still want to keep the same effective date, same due diligence date, same earn, all of those things still the same, but the new contract will have signatures that are after those dates.
Mhm.
And that doesn't reflect in your days on market or anything like that?
No, it's a novation. So you're already under contract, and you'll still
Right.
be under contract with the novation.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Sure. All right. So one other thing, you guys, I wanted to talk about. Oh, are there any other questions first? Any other questions? No. Okay. We only have 4 minutes left. Okay. So I might start the topic and then we might have to continue it next time. But what do you do about desperate buyers or desperate agents? Desperate buyers, desperate agents. Have you run into them? I'll give you one example. The house that was under contract this past term, once we went under contract, we went pending. There was an agent that was so desperate to still get into this property that they scheduled a walkthrough as if they're doing an inspection on the home so that they could still try to get in and show their client this property, which is already well under contract. And so, you know, like, what do you do and how do you shut that down when agents are trying to work around the systems that are in place when they can't access or go and view the property anymore, you know? So I wanted to share that because this recently happened and I had to manually go in and cancel their walkthrough because we are under contract, you know, with the statement saying no more showings under contract. But there are agents that are trying to do some workarounds and still, you know, try to see if they can get in there and maybe bring a attractive backup or something. You know, what do you do, or how are you handling, or are you even running into those kinds of things?
Yeah, we had that.
I would ask my BIC.
Ask your BIC. Okay. Pete, you're a smart man, I can see.
Yeah.
Well, at least I didn't hand it off to you like Teresa did last month.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. Tiffany, you can answer this question.
I don't
The
understand.
main thing you do is make sure you get the buyer under buyer's agency agreement, so you got them locked.
Okay. Make sure you always do that. Very good.
Yes. Yes.
Written buyer agency signatures.
Right. Not taking it if I don't. We won't meet. Yeah. So
I don't really see what the point of even getting into the house would be except for a backup. I don't understand.
yeah, I think agents are trying to show their clients that they're going above and beyond, but they are violating rules to do it. You know, so I don't mind a hard working buyer's agent at all, but follow the rules as you're doing it, you know, and I think that's what it is. And it could be that some buyers are putting so much pressure on their buyer's agent as well to, well, I got to get in. I want to see it. I didn't have the opportunity. What didn't you do? You didn't, if you didn't have to go take your kids to the soccer game, you could have showed me the house and I could have made an offer. You know, so I think we as agents have to really educate and level set up front and bring the reality back into this market.
Yeah. So once it goes pending, there are no more showings allowed. And I get that buyers can be and sellers too can be very difficult and they can put a lot of pressure, but don't forget, you still have to follow the rules. And so make sure that you're confident telling your buyer if it's pending, it is no longer available for showings and we cannot get into this property. Make sure you guys know that, and then be prepared if there's some agents that are being pressured into trying to break the rules, that you educate that agent, you know, terminate the attempts and let them know that they don't have permission or access to that property. So just be firm and help them to communicate it to their pushy and desperate clients, because that is happening out in this market. So again, just setting realistic expectations is going to really be helpful. And you know, if they want to submit backup offers, you could even have a note in the listing, you know, backup offers accepted, however, no more showings permitted, or something to that impact or effect. So just don't be surprised. People are doing some desperate things. It's a really challenging market out there. And be prepared to be firm and protect and safeguard your client's property.
That's right.
All right.
Yep.
Well, it's 2:00, you guys. Thanks for coming and joining us today. And we are
So
Thanks,
glad you asked.
thanks to Chris for being the only other guy on the call.
Pete, I'm always with you.
Hey,
Thank you.
yeah,
All right. See you guys next week for some other
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
hot topics.
yeah.
don't bite anybody.
I'll try. We might, Pete. We might.
We'll try not to. Yeah,
Bye.
and we are glad you asked. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, we are.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.